So I'm 26 currently. My big goal is to hit $1 million by the time I'm 30.
What has been the most difficult challenge you've encountered thus far?
Learning better financial discipline through the business. For years, it was always one checking, one savings account. Whatever I had in that checking account is the money that I had available that I could spend on. And if I was looking at a new trailer that day, that's what it was going towards. I now have 7 different banking accounts, having a completely different financial system that has really helped get a better handle on what money is actually available to go to different areas.
Welcome to the Cost of Doing Business podcast.
Welcome to Elverson, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. This is about as nice of a setting as you can be in.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad of a view.
Beautiful striped grass. Got
freshly cut.
Yeah, peaceful water feature out here in the backyard here in Eastern Pennsylvania. I drove down this morning, and I'm going to be doing kind of a tour here in Eastern Pennsylvania today and tomorrow. See some work boots drying out there.
Yeah, a couple days worth of rain.
True sign of a contractor. Put them on the trampoline, that'll do it. So, but hey, thanks for making the time.
I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it,
appreciate
and look
out.
forward to the conversation.
Yeah,
and seeing some of your work at the golf course.
Oh, it'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Freshwater feature just finished a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This year?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Literally
I didn't know it was
less
that
than
new.
a month.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So actually still waiting to build the box to go over the power unit and everything like that. So all the cords are still there.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yep.
Well, right on. Let's get into it. So for everybody that's listening, give us an idea, give us a little bit of an intro, like who you are, what your company name, like what your company makeup looks like, what kind of work you do, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ken Brown, I own Liberty Outdoor Landscapes. We kind of are a design build with a little bit of maintenance mixed in there. We're hovering right around the $250,000 mark. Our goal actually this year is close to the $400,000 mark. Should be actually pretty close to hitting it. Do a little bit of maintenance, some mowing, mow about 2 days a week. We do projects and stuff like that. The other 3 days, every now and then a rain day gets us on Saturday. But everything from water features, decks, patios, hardscapes, and landscaping all over.
And you said you have a part-time.
Currently have one guy that's helping me. Jake's a legend. He's actually I had him start back in high school, and he's basically come back every summer through college. He's going to work for a couple other guys. He really wants to get into construction, or I think he's going to go work for Pico maybe here at the end of the year. So I think I have him for one more year.
Okay.
But yeah, he's great.
So is that going to be kind of the kick in the butt to hire a full-time person once he?
I think so. Yeah. I think I'm really starting to get to the point where I need to hire someone full-time, either someone to really take over the maintenance area and maybe grow that a little bit more, just to have someone full-time that can take that over, or someone that can really help me on the projects. Either one of them, yeah.
Forgive me if I missed this detail, but did you say how long you've been working now in your own business?
So it started in 2019. So I guess this is technically our 6th year, 5th season.
Okay. And what's kind of like your vision? Like, where do you want to end up? Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, what's that vision look like to you?
I have a really big goal so I'm 26 currently. My big goal is to hit $1 million by the time I'm 30.
Okay.
So that's the overarching goal right now, is to hit the $1 million within the next, I guess, 4 years. Ideally, where I would love to see the company in like 5 to 10 is more on the design build side. That's really where I'm more passionate about it. I did maintenance for years, but I would love to do more of the design build, more on the hardscapes, more water features. Couple crews. I don't want to grow. I don't want to be massive. Somewhere, but closer to that 4 to 5 million within the next 5 to 10 years, something like that. That's the overarching goal, basically.
Lick your finger and hold it up to the wind kind of numbers. What I can tell you is typically an employee on a design build company will produce $200,000 to $300,000 worth of revenue per person.
Right.
And so if you want to be $1 million, that kind of tells you have to be about 4 people of production, right?
Yep.
And it also means that if you, I personally like to have 2 to 3 person crews. I feel like with 2 to 3 people with equipment is about the most efficient model to kind of do this kind of project.
Absolutely.
Which means that once you have 4 people, you can start splitting up into 2 crews from time to time, or band up when it makes sense.
Right.
which is nice to have that flexibility.
absolutely.
You can maximize your efficiency in your
Yeah,
production that
absolutely.
way. But yeah, so $1 million company, very rarely are you going to see a $1 million company have less than 4 people.
Right.
It happens.
Sure.
I've seen it happen. Usually it's a 2 or 3 man company with a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
doing high dollar swimming pools or
Sure.
whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, it's difficult to
Mm-hmm.
get beyond that. And a metric that I like to watch, if you're a numbers nerd, is revenue per man hour.
Mm-hmm.
So you might make 20% profit mowing grass,
Right.
or you might make 20% profit doing a design build project,
Right.
but your revenue per man hour is significantly higher on one than
Correct.
the other.
Yeah.
Which means that even though the 20% looks the same,
Right.
because of the other factors with buying material and do markup on that,
Mm-hmm.
it can turn into more bottom line
Right.
when you're doing the higher revenue per man hour
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So it's a metric that's it's a great benchmark to look at of revenue per man hour,
Yeah.
because it essentially tells you, oh, if I have 4 people, one person can work this many hours in a year. That tells me that I can pretty much predict I should be at this revenue range.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just recently started, this past year, really started diving more into like KPIs and stuff
Yep.
like that. And I have a whole another spreadsheet that's 6 pages long that tracks a lot of that stuff. And I mean, using SynkedUP, it helps a lot because you can see it, especially the new dashboard feature. Really helps to be able to look at all that.
Yeah.
Metrics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been exciting to expose. We've built up a couple years worth of that data now, and slowly, surely, we're working to expose that. My intention with that is like I want to show the numbers that actually mean something across all companies. Like try to
Right.
show something that's benchmarkable,
Yep.
rather than I made $200,000 worth of profit. Well, was that on $1 million worth of revenue or $5 million worth of
Right.
revenue? Like one's
Big
good, one's
difference.
bad.
Right, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. Diving into the questions I'd like to get into, just to kind of promote discussion on the podcast.
Sure.
What has been the best advice that you've received in your journey?
Be happy and do what you do. Do what you love, follow your passions, stuff like that. But also say yes and figure it out. It's probably been one that has done good for me in some senses and bad for me in others, but I've learned a lot through it. There's some projects that I may have overreached a little bit, but learned a ton through. Learning constantly has always been huge. I've never been one to be like, I know everything and everything about the industry and stuff like that, because there's so many companies that are a lot bigger than I am, obviously, but getting around people and constantly learning is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting that when you said that, it triggered something else I heard recently, which was like, you said you get to $1 million by saying yes, you get to 5 million by saying no.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Because up until $1 million, like it's just a lot of hustle, grind,
Right.
and yes to opportunity,
Right.
and seeing what happens, figuring it out, But what can tend to happen then is, as entrepreneurs, we forget. We're like, well, what got me to $1 million was
Right.
saying yes. So
Right.
we keep right on saying yes and
Yeah.
and create a world of chaos
Right.
that's not fun to live in.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so there definitely is a different prescription for each season.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you, man. Like, yeah, sure. It's great to have $1 million goal. It's going to take some. It takes some execution and implementation to get there. right?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely gotta work hard at it.
Yeah, yeah. And I like the way that you're talking about like tracking things, watching metrics, and getting there. I guess with the dynamic of intelligence and intentionality, rather than just sheer brute force.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something I've tried to lean into a lot more, is looking at the actual, like, tracking a lot of data and then actually looking at it and trying to make different decisions based off of it. I think it's important to obviously look at what has worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, and then pivot and make different decisions based off of that.
Yes, exactly.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, getting in. I think that's a methodology or a mindset where you're suspicious of your own assumptions or opinions, where instead of just like trusting your gut and your intuition all the time, every time without question, and just kind of having this vibe of, well, I'm right.
Yeah.
Instead of that, you have a methodology or a mindset to how can I measure this? How
Right.
can I track this?
Yep.
What does the report tell me?
Right.
I may think that just using a kind of a blatant, almost hypothetical example, I may think that mowing is my most profitable thing, but what that really is code for is it's what I enjoy the most.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Whereas it's actually your least profitable
Right.
thing, and there's something else that would be, but because of the fear of, do I have to figure that out? I don't
Right.
know. I've never done it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So being suspicious of your own assumptions and going to the numbers and the data to like either validate
Mm-hmm.
or be like, huh, I never realized that before.
Mm-hmm.
What is that telling me?
Yeah. Pulling from data and past experience is the best way to make future decisions a lot easier.
Yeah, because then it's not a my opinion against your opinion thing anymore. It's just like, well, there it is. What does
Yeah,
the data
right.
tell you?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it
and now
either
we
worked or
can
it
debate
didn't.
about what the data is saying.
Right, exactly.
But that's a different dynamic.
Yeah, and I mean, especially when you like start talking about like, you know, if you go into like man hours, like on a job, like on a previous job,
Yep.
if you constantly are showing that you're, you know, over on man hours on a patio, you need to start adding, you know, more hours for the next patio, so then that we can try and be more profitable.
Exactly.
With that.
And to make that real, that example that you're sharing, I have seen contractors react to that reality
Mm-hmm.
in two different ways. So, okay, repeatedly going over man hours on a patio.
Yep.
I've seen contractors that say, oh, I need to fix that. And they fix their estimating and account for the extra hours the next time they estimate a similar job.
Right.
I've also seen the opposite where they're like, it's the crew's fault. It's
Right.
it's not the
Right. Right.
it's not the salesperson's fault.
Right. And that's definitely the I guess you could say benefit and also killer of, you know, being like basically two guys in the field.
Yeah.
It's generally my fault. it is always my fault. At least until I get, you know, a crew out doing it, which it'll probably still be my fault.
Yeah, well, you know, like I don't know if you ever if you read much, but have you ever heard of the book Extreme Ownership?
Best book out there.
Oh.
I generally will read it at least once a year.
Really? I
Yes.
need to do that. I've
I-
read it twice. I need to read it
And
again.
have you read the follow-up book, the
Economy of Leadership? Yes.
Great book.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. But yeah, to that, it's always your fault. Yeah, Extreme Ownership, read
right.
that.
Always.
Yeah, if the employee is showing up late repeatedly, it's still your fault. You hired him.
Yep, exactly.
You're letting
Yeah.
him work there.
You either hired him or you know, you hired him, but also if you don't continue, you know, to discipline him or say anything like that, and
you're letting
you're
letting the framework exist that allows him to continually show up late with no consequence.
Well, it's like they always say, like whatever you allow, you promote.
Yeah,
Basically.
whatever. Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
So if you keep allowing people to, you know, show up late, or just, you know, if you're out mowing, you're not, you know, someone's not trimming something properly, and you don't say anything, they're just going to keep doing it.
Amen.
Or keep cutting corners, or anything
right.
like that.
Yep. And if they didn't do it, like I was just on a Facebook thread on the recently that was a guy was talking about doing systems and processes, and the idea in that thread was, should we spend this much effort on building clear, defined systems and processes? And it's like, well, if you don't, you leave a vacuum where the employee will make their own decision and probably set them up to fail.
Right.
You know, defining what the definition of done looks like.
Right.
Now you've defined it. Now if they fall short repeatedly, even after instruction, there's your
Right.
there's your now it's extreme ownership either way. Like
Right. Oh, yeah,
either you gotta
absolutely.
let them go or redefine the process more clearly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love this stuff.
Yeah, so do I. I could go down a laundry list of books.
Yeah,
There's so many.
What has been the most difficult challenge you've encountered thus far?
Having manpower on the jobs when I need them most, and when not, I should say not having them. But coupled with that, finding my way through learning better financial discipline through the business. For years, it was always one checking, one savings account. Whatever I had in that checking account is the money that I had available that I could spend on. And if I was looking at a new trailer that day, that's what it was going towards, or, you know, something like that. And but now, you know, kind of reeling that back in this year, you know, having a completely different financial system that has really helped, especially the past, you know, 6 months, past year basically, and, you know, kind of implementing that to really get a better handle on what money is actually available to go to different areas.
Can you break it down for us? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, like I said, I started out with one checking account, one savings account, and, you know, was hoping for the best. I now have 7 different banking accounts. So I have the main operating account. I have like a kind of like a backup savings account, kind of a backup to the operating account, just in case. I have a tax account, so money gets allocated for taxes every single month. We have an equipment fund, basically, so anytime we need to, buy a new trailer, a new shovel, mower, whatever that, that comes out to, will come out of the equipment fund. We have retained earnings, so basically extra profit basically goes into there. And then I have like what I call like a property fund, basically. So I want to eventually, buy some land or, something and build a shop on. So kind of putting a little bit of money every year, or every month to go towards that. And we also have a project deposit fund, basically. So anytime a deposit comes in from the project, it goes into that account.
So it doesn't look like it's your money.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get touched until that project starts. And if we need to buy materials for that project, it comes out of that project deposit. Because with that, it also helps. Like if we're getting through our money fast on that job, something went wrong either in the estimating phase or something that
or the payment schedule.
Yeah, or a payment schedule, and we're pulling from that account faster than we probably should be. So yeah, that has helped a lot.
It kind of is a forcing function to force you to come to grips with reality about what money is what money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how would you describe? Okay, let's say you had a problem and then this was the solution. Like, what was the problem solution? Like, what was it? And I can paraphrase that, just from what you're saying, but like it was the thing of there's a chunk of money, a pot of money.
Yep.
And I don't know what of it is materials.
Yep.
What of it is mine? What of it needs to be reserved for taxes? What about the savings that I'm building?
Right.
Now it's like, okay, there it is. It's broken about, and there's actually there's a name for this type of accounting. It's escaping me right now. Relay Banking does an online product that lets you do this automatically. It's kind of like the Dave Ramsey envelope system.
It's also similar. I think it's similar to Profit First.
Yeah. Yes. That's what I was looking for. It's the Profit First system.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great system, and I think a lot of, especially I guess in entrepreneurship or just in life in general, finding out what works for you to be the most successful for you.
Yeah.
Like I had talked to a bunch of people because I'd come to the end of the month or I'd come to the end of the year and time to go for taxes and don't have the money set aside for taxes. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing or where my money's going, just trying to figure out where money was going. And that was my biggest frustration. So I was like, all right, well, if I know exactly, which account this has to go dedicated to. I know exactly how much is in each account, and I can only spend, like if we only have, $3,000 in the equipment account for, and I want to go buy a trailer or, something like that for $5,000. All right, we don't have that money. And we may have $20,000 in all of the accounts, but that $5,000 is not in there. We have $3,000 for equipment.
There you go. So, there's the forcing function.
Right.
That prevents you from sabotaging yourself on a future day.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, no, like this is a big deal. Like I was at the Hardscape Mastery event. Were you there?
I was not.
Okay. For a minute I thought I remembered you being there, but yeah, I was out there with the Andy Mortar thing. Caleb at the Caleb Almond's shop. Jeremy Swihart was there, and this was one of the topics they were talking about. Andy Mortar's accountant, Stephanie Kauser, was there. And she does do work for a lot of SynkedUP contractors. Like she does freelance work. But she was talking about how they kind of set up a similar process to what you're talking about for Andy to solve the exact same problem. Yeah. Like Andy was saying, I remember Andy saying at that event that he was saying, I needed to know how much of that money was actually mine. Yeah. And that's what's hidden if you just have one checking account.
And I think that's honestly where I've listened to Dave Ramsey and read Profit First and everything like that. I think because I listen to the Motor Life podcast every week. It's fantastic. Andy's a great guy. But I think hearing him kind of break it out, I was like, that's a far better system than what I'm doing. I'm like, so let me figure out how I can tailor that to what I want to do and how we're operating. And that's kind of what I have now is what I've came up with from that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
If you could go back to your starting date in 2019, what is the one thing that you would do different?
Probably managing the finances, first and foremost. But I think I would have gotten into design build a little quicker.
Okay.
When I started out, I was mowing, and I got to the point where I was mowing like 7 days a week. So it's just constantly mowing, constantly working. And I quickly lost like the love of it. There's only so many ways you can cut grass. I kind of grown up in like the construction, realm or world. My dad's in construction, and he does kitchen and bath, so he does everything on the inside, and now I do everything on the outside. But kind of doing that, I found more of a love for design build, the hardscapes, stuff like that. So getting into design build a lot quicker, I probably would have done that.
Mm-hmm. And was there an awareness like early on that you wanted to get into that? But there was a fear that was holding you back from doing it, or was it just like, oh, I hadn't discovered it yet?
Yeah, I mean, I really hadn't discovered it. I think there was a little bit of a fear just because I didn't know a lot about it. Like I knew a lot about construction just from growing up with my dad, but as far as like a patio or something like that, like I had never laid pavers really, or water features, stuff like that. So I think there may have been a little bit of a fear, but I think it was more, I saw myself mowing 7 days a week, and I'm like, where can I make time
Right, you can't
to
buy
do
it.
this?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, back then, I even still say it now, like if I can find the 25th hour and the 8th day, somebody let me know, because I'm there. But yeah, I think once I figured out, like, and mowing, it just got so repetitive, and I was like, I can't release that creative freedom that I really would love to do. So being able to make that transition and go more into design build was the way to go.
Mm-hmm. And what's been the project that you're most proud of so far in your design build experience?
I mean, this water feature over the golf course is something that's pretty cool. We haven't done anything too grand. We just finished a deck this past winter. That was fun. That was our first deck. And we have a couple other small patios in there. But I have some that I'm designing now that I think we're going to end up in the fall or early next year that I think will be pretty cool. Some patios, pergola, and different stuff like that. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it because we're starting to get not necessarily recognized more, but there's more clients asking for different projects with different features and stuff like that. So I'm getting pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it's just the old adage of you get more of what you do.
Right.
Like if you start doing these design build, like you'll get more requests for that kind of, because you show off on your socials and all that. Yeah. One of the questions I have for you is kind of off the beaten path of my normal questions is, with your size of being a one-man full-time, one part-time, and about $250,000 in revenue right now. Like one of the things I encounter a lot as the founder of SynkedUP, we sell it at $399 a month for the bottom plan.
Yep.
A lot of people at your size of business tell us straight up, like, well, I don't see the value. It doesn't feel like it's worth it. The price is too much, or I'm too small for it. What is your perspective? Like, where do you see the value? Why do you stay subscribed to it?
I see the value in the fact, and maybe it's not mind-numbing, but like being able to go into an estimate, drop everything in from the catalog, or drop in a template, put in the hours, and know it's right, is where I see a lot of the value, rather than trying to sit and figure out all of it in a spreadsheet or something like that, and taking the hours to kind of go through those numbers and hope that it's right. The fact that I can use the budget and have everything in, especially from past year or from past months, and update it then, and then knowing that based off of the budget, the numbers that we're putting out are correct, makes me more comfortable sending an estimate out, knowing that everything basically was accounted for, and nothing was missed. Now there's stuff from experience that I missed every now and then, but most of the stuff is in the estimate, and it's paid for, and it's accounted for. That's kind of where I see most of it.
So just that peace of mind and that confidence that I'm not miscalculating something. Right. Yeah, it makes sense. And so, do you think that the people that are, that $200,000 to $400,000 range that maybe feel like it's not worth it, do you feel like maybe they're just, what would you say that's their thought process might be? They're just not aware of how big of an impact it can be by one little miscalculation?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a knowing your numbers standpoint, like you guys always say, I mean, I think there's a lot of guys that can get away with it for a while. It just continue to, pushing out work, keep getting deposits, keep getting, invoices in and everything like that. And they're able to kind of run by the seat of their pants maybe. But I think knowing your numbers helps you in a better way of maybe growing, or like if you have bigger goals to grow bigger, knowing, if you're pricing something properly is pretty valuable.
Yeah, you can fund your vision.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Like you can say, I'm 250 now, I want to be 400. But to get to 400, I have to hire another employee. I might have to get another truck.
Yep.
I might have to do all that. You can put all that into a budget and say, if I could sell this same patio I'm bidding right now as a $250,000 company, and you can see exactly what you would have to charge for that same patio as if you were the $400,000 company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
being able
to put your numbers into the worksheets.
Yeah.
And for the budget, and going, maybe my man hour rate is 87 or 80, 90 right now, or if we add another truck, if we add an excavator or a skid steer, it may go 110. It may somewhere up in there, and then knowing that all we have to do basically is just plug that into our budget, update the budget, and it'll update all of our numbers then. And I'm not having to calculate it on the back end, or it's midnight and trying to figure out, okay, well, we did add that truck, is our hour rate going to stay the same, or is it just going to, I know for a fact that if we add something, put it into the budget,
it's there.
It's there.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say SynkedUP costs you $4 or $5 grand a year, so that's 2% of your top line revenue.
Yeah.
What kind of ROI do you see on that? Like, what does it do for you?
As far as an actual dollar figure, I'm not entirely sure, but as a time figure is a lot. Being able to not have to sit up for hours to estimate one small project is huge. Getting able to, like, if our friends are going camping for the weekend, I can get all of my estimates done and can go enjoy my weekend, send out the estimates, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So that's big. Getting my time back, almost kind of like buying back your time.
Yeah.
With Dan Martell.
Another book reference.
Yep.
So when did you sign up for SynkedUP again? Was it 2 years?
I think this is my second year.
I was going to say, yeah. So after you signed up, of course there's I'm buying the promise, I'm buying the vision.
Yep.
But what was the moment after you signed up, after you were logging in and messing around with it? What was the moment that you're like, oh, wow, like, okay, yeah, this is essential for my business, I'm not canceling this?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing changing over to SynkedUP was the app. Getting basically almost full access to the software from my phone. At that time, especially, I was a one-man band, so getting, if we were out at a job and a client wanted to add a couple extra bushes, or if we wanted to add something else onto the project, could bring up an estimate, or basically send them over an estimate, they could get it approved, and we can go and continue on with our job. But yeah, that was the most crucial for me, being able to have access to all of my information basically on my phone and not having to bring a laptop with me everywhere. Was the point that I was like, yeah, we're staying here.
Yeah, because that's definitely with this kind of contractors, whether you're 250, $1 million, $5 million. $5 million, you start getting people in the office full time. Right. But the $1 million contractor lives their life, runs their business from the truck seat most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I can recognize that, and it makes sense.
Yeah, it wasn't a hard transition. The price actually didn't scare me. I was without before, so I kind of had that. I knew what I was paying for, like every month, so it wasn't hard for me to put it into my budget on a monthly basis. But finding the extra value in that is where it made it even easier to sign up with SynkedUP.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you, follow along with your work, your journey, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so all social media, Instagram, Facebook, every now and then we'll touch TikTok, LinkedIn, Liberty Outdoor Landscapes, wherever. Our website is Liberty Outdoor Landscapes, so
.com.
Pretty easy to find wherever. I love connecting with people, so whoever wants to reach out, I'd love to talk to anybody. I think having more people to talk to is always the best part.
Right on. Amen. Well, thank you for making the time.
Absolutely.
Let's go check out a job site.
Yeah.
Maybe
that
grab
sounds
some
great.
lunch.
Yeah, that sounds awesome to me.
And I'm wondering where you got that hat. That must be a limited edition.
It is quite a nice hat. That was the old H&A special right there.
Is that where it was?
It's from Zeppa's.
Ah,
It's from Zeppa's.
Yes. There was like 10 of them.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Limited edition. I don't even have one.
I was actually sitting right next to the table, and you guys were like, "All right, everyone can take one." I was like, "That's mine."
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again,
Yeah.
Ken.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.